Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about performance reviews. So it is that time of year again. So around November, December, most companies will start to kind of gear up on the performance reviews. So they'll send out, you have to fill out this long survey, and then you have to do reviews on your direct reports, and you also have to show your boss what you've been up to the last year. This is my most excited part of the year. I love performance reviews because I love tracking and showing off. So if you do it right, it can be very beneficial as far as raises and promotions go. So what we're going to do is talk about how I go about performance reviews as a manager and as someone who also has a boss, and my tips and tricks for you guys. I put together kind of 5 is what I want to focus on. And I wrote them out here. And the first thing that you want to do is you do not want this to be your first conversation about performance with your manager. So if your performance review, your end of year performance review is your first conversation about performance with your manager, that means your manager sucks, really, or you suck. One of you needs to start communicating and start setting up these meetings. So you should be talking to your boss about performance, I would say monthly, just not talking about specific jobs or job tasks, talking about strictly how am I doing overall, big picture wise. So the first step, and this is the one most people will mess up on, I've done this in the past, is talking to your manager. It is hard to talk to your manager, especially when they're in meeting after meeting after meeting, but you have to make it a priority. So you have to look out for yourself. These are my favorite questions that I actually stole from a book called The Making of a Manager and Radical Candor. Both written by women, both really good women managers. I've also read Being the Boss and a few others. So these were some of my favorite questions that you should ask your boss or talk with them about. The first one is a shared vision of what great work looks like. This is like the most fundamental thing that you could talk to your boss about, because you could be doing great work that you think is great, but your boss or manager doesn't think that that's a priority. So you could spend all this time focusing on one little thing and thinking you're doing a great job, but your boss really wanted you to do this other thing. So you need to have that conversation up front. You should also talk about how you want to be recognized. This is a big one. Like, do you want them to buy you coffee, or do you want them to just send you a text, or do you not want any praise at all? Does it make you feel uncomfortable if they praise you in front of people? So like, that's a good thing to ask. Talking about what kind of feedback is good. What can your manager do to make you more successful? You should always be asking this. What can my manager do? Can my manager do office hours? Can my manager help me with this specific thing? Can my manager teach me X, Y, or Z? And then these two are really important. Does your manager know what matters to you? And do you know what matters to your manager? Do you know what's keeping your manager up at night? Like, those are really key questions to ask yourself. And then at the end, you should come up with 3 measurable goals with your manager, most likely in the beginning of the year. So you should have already done this. If you haven't, you should probably make them now. Sometimes I make my goals after I've completed them. I know that sounds really awful, but if I took like 2 classes that I wasn't really planning on taking, I'll just make that a goal and then be like, done. I mean, they don't need to know that you made it after you did it. Then you have step 2 is measure your goals. So once you create these goals, and it doesn't have to be 3, I tend to do maybe 3 to 5. Now you start measuring your goals. So you start tracking them, and I'll show you kind of what that looks like. And then you want to present your goals in your actual performance review. So what I mean by that is, let's say I have a goal of, I read 5 business books, right? What I would do is I would track that. So in my library here, I have all the books I've read and the dates on which I completed them or read them. So you could open up a book and say, hey, I've read this book on October 15th, 2019. Easy to filter out those books and show your manager, hey, this is what I've been learning. Another example is, hey, I wanted to learn 200 vocab words. So you could go into your vocab log, which I have this one, ignore the top ones, I haven't put in the pretty pictures yet. But you go through and you go, okay, I learned 200 vocab words. This presents a lot better than saying, oh, I learned a bunch of stuff. What did you learn? Now you have an exact thing. You could send him a link to your Notion if you wanted, where you're storing all this, and then they can go through here and see what you learned. Like, just whatever. I mean, this shows just so much better than just saying things. So now you want to think of it more of a presentation. So let's go back in here. And another one is you want to have like measurable data. That's why I said measurable goals. So then you have, I estimated $500 million, or I worked on a project that's $200 million, or I did $500,000 worth of sales this year, you know, whatever it may be. The fourth thing, once you present kind of your basic goals, there's a few things you can do to stand out, because your coworkers are going to be doing very similar goals, right? So you want to kind of have like an extra factor, I would say. Recruitment is a great extra add, right? If your boss doesn't have to go out and recruit a bunch of people because you went and recruited them yourself, say that. You know, I recruited 3 new hires. I went to 3 hiring events. Any other not extracurricular, but, you know, kind of outside your company's scope is like, I'm president of the Engineering Advisory Council or something like that. So if you're on a council for some school and you represent your company and the industry in some way, like, say that. I wrote code to automate file transferring. I volunteered at 2 events, you know, like, these are kind of things that are like bonuses. Just because you're a good employee, they did not ask you to do these things. So you always want to have a little bit of a go above and beyond. And then we have show leadership. This is my favorite one. It comes at the end because if you want to get promoted, if you want to go higher up, you're going to have to train people. You're going to have to become a manager yourself. You're going to have to show some leadership skills. So make sure you throw in some leadership goals, like giving back, right? Training. I trained 2 people in a specific discipline this year. And this together will make your performance review go so much better than if you just kind of like wing it. Like, most people, when I was in my previous company, most people were just like, well, I did the things that I did, and here are the projects I worked on. And it was like, there wasn't a lot of data, and they just look like general employees. Like, yes, you did your job, congratulations. But no, you want to look like you're above and beyond if you want to be compensated for that. So these are my 5 tips for when you go into your performance review. Just make sure to use lots of data. A lot of managers are data driven, and it's very hard to argue against data. So who's gonna say you didn't learn when you said you learned 200 vocab words? 200 vocab words sounds a lot better than, hey, I learned some vocabulary in the industry. Which one do you think is better? So think about like these sorts of things when you're going into your performance review, and totally write below how your performance review went, or if you prepare in a different way. But I always do months and months in advance of work, and then it all comes together at the end. So you kind of have to start early. So hopefully you guys enjoyed these tips, and totally comment below if you have any advice that I did not share here. And I will see you guys next time.